It's crazy because I come from an immigrant family. My family's from Nigeria and they came to America for the American dream. But what if I told you the system is actually what's keeping you poor, right? See, most people in America, they're actually doing well off, better than most places in the country. If you ever travel anywhere, you will see that the average American is doing better than most people. And what is the American dream? The American dream is what? To go to college, get out a student loan, to get married, take out debt to get married, to get a ring, take out debt to get a ring, get a house, take out debt to get a house, get a car note. Did I mention that? Take out debt to get a car note. Have kids. That's going to be another expense, right? So what I'm saying is one of the big things about the American dream is you're always in a debt cycle, a debt cycle, and debt cycle. And that's actually how the American monetary system works. So what am I saying? The American monetary system is basically we import goods to China from China, right? They import real goods. And what we do, we pay them with our future earnings because they bought our treasuries, right? So we're paying them with debt. So basically we're paying them with our future assets. And so this is the same thing with American Dream. You're buying all this stuff. You're buying the car, you're buying the marriage, you're buying the house, right? With debt. And so what ends up happening, you pay the debt off with your future earnings, your future work, right? So now you're working every single day to pay off these debt that you accumulated. And then what's happening? You might save a little bit every single month, every single year. And then the American system is printing more money every single day. So they have to print money to pay off their debt that they have to China. And so what ends up happening when they print, there's more money circulating in the system. When there's more money circulating in the system, that means your purchasing power goes down. So what does that mean? That means to buy eggs might have been $5 4 years ago and $2 4 years ago, and now they're $4. So what ends up happening, you might have saved that 20,000 and only have 20,000, but that 20,000 used to be able to buy you I don't know the math, 10,000 eggs for $2, right? And then now you can only buy maybe 2,000 eggs for $10. I butchered that math. But regardless, that 20,000 is able to buy you less eggs now. So, but the thing is, on top of that, your salary isn't increasing, but the monetary system, there's always more dollars coming into the market. So your dollar is getting weaker and weaker every year. So what am I saying? Basically, I'm saying you're getting debt for your future earnings, which you're getting debt and you're going to pay it off with your future earnings. But your future earnings is actually going to be a lot weaker. So you're in this never-ending cycle of working, and you never feel like you get ahead. So how can you actually get ahead? One is living a lifestyle where you don't have any consumer debt. So I made a couple good decisions when I was younger, right? My parents actually instilled this in me. I don't believe in car notes. If you have to get a car note, you can't afford the car, flat out, right? So I always had beat up cars, man. I had a Toyota Camry. I got it for like $1,000. Oh my God, it got wrecked, right? And then I ended up buying another Corolla for $4,000. That got wrecked again. Then I ended up getting another Camry, which I've had for years, for maybe $10,000. But I've always purchased them in cash. So what ends up happening is that's an extra $300 that came back to me. But now I think car notes are maybe $500, $1,000. So now you're paying $1,000 car notes every single day. How are you going to get ahead, right? And so another thing, I paid off all my student loan debt last year, right? Because I realized like, hey, people were telling me, okay, your interest rate on your loans is 4,000, but you can invest in the S&P 500, which is 10,000, and you can save that difference. But you know, one of the biggest things is paying off that debt actually gave me relieved so much stress because it opened up another cash flow for me. So now I have no car note, now I have no student loan debt, right? And then another thing people will tell you is to buy a house. Yeah, buying a house is good investment, right? But the thing is, sometimes it might be cheaper to rent. Don't be in a rush to buy a house because you still have to do maintenance. What happens if your roof goes out? What happens if your heater goes out? And then one thing, if you put down 3%, you're still gonna have PMI, right? So one of the biggest things, keeping me out of debt has helped me to get ahead in life. So one thing I say to you is try and figure out how to become debt-free as quickly as possible. Like credit cards, I'm not completely against credit cards, but if you're keeping a balance on it, that's dumb. Pay that off every single month. So now that you paid off all your debt, one thing that is true is that you do need some savings in case of an actual emergency fund, right? in case you have a roof go out, in case you need like a car repair, or in case you need a new car, you need to save up emergency for at least 3 to 6 months, right? After that, if you want to save up more, do whatever is best for you, right? I say 3 months is 3 to 6 months is 6 months of your actual rent. If you really want to go hard, you can do it. Put your actual budget of how much you eat, how much your rent, how much you do for fun. You can do that. Whatever makes you comfortable, right? Just have some type of savings. But I think after a certain amount, you have to figure out how to maintain your purchasing power. So what do I mean? Most people will tell you traditionally invest in the S&P 500, right? I'm not a financial advisor, but I'll just tell you what I do. Most people tell you invest in S&P 500. That gives you a 10% return every single year. But the problem is the monetary system, the M2 money supply, also increases at the same rate. So that means they're printing 10% every single year. So my belief is that the S&P 500 is the amount of the monetary increase every single year, right? So what I believe is that if you don't beat the S&P 500, you're actually not gaining any dollars. You're just keeping your purchasing power. But if you get anything less than the S&P 500, you're losing purchasing power, right? So for instance, I do believe you should have an emergency fund and put that in a high yield savings account at 4 or 3% at minimum. If you're doing that, if you're doing less than that, you're an idiot. I don't care what nobody says, right? So if you're only getting 4% on that, everything else, you need to try and beat the S&P 500. You can put an S&P 500 that gives you a little bit of money. But what I recommend is put it into Bitcoin. Why am I saying put it into Bitcoin? Because one of the biggest benefits of Bitcoin versus any other asset class is one, Bitcoin has a limited supply. So if it has a limited supply, it basically counters what the American system is doing. The American system, or general money, fiat, is printing dollars constantly. So there's an infinite supply of dollars being printed. In stocks, you can get more stocks. They can do stock splits. They can give out, Amazon, Google gives out tons of stocks to their employees any single day, right? So they're basically printing these stocks out of thin air. But it's what Bitcoin is not getting printed out of thin air. It's a limited supply. And what you're seeing right now is all the rich people in front of us, they're literally buying it. Michael Saylor, the founder of MicroStrategy, he's constantly buying tons of Bitcoin. BlackRock, Leigh Franks, they own everything. They control everything, right? They're constantly buying tons of Bitcoin. If you look at Harvard or Columbia, they're buying tons of Bitcoin. See, everyone around you is buying Bitcoin. 21 Capital is buying Bitcoin. All the rich people are buying Bitcoin. Even the US made it a strategic reserve, right? But why? What do they know that we don't know? They know that the monetary supply is always increasing. The dollars are getting inflated every single year, and you're losing purchasing power. So what they do instead, they invest all their money they invest their money into Bitcoin. So I'm not saying you invest all your money. Don't give up your lifestyle, right? Maybe invest 30%. Maybe get your first 1,000 Satoshis, then get 0.110 Bitcoin, then get to 1 Bitcoin, right? Once you start buying Bitcoin, you'll understand why you need Bitcoin. Bitcoin always goes up. And then once you start buying 1 Bitcoin, a small fraction, you're going to start doing your research. Once you start doing your research, you're going to understand, like, this makes sense. I have to invest in Bitcoin because my dollar is always losing purchase power. But you guys, if you like this kind of video, put in the comments and tell me what you guys want to see.